The following was recorded in front of a live studio audience at the Studio 21 Podcast Café. This is the United Podcast Network.
If you're building or buying or selling a home, the Real Estate Crew's got news for you at the Real Estate House Party.
With attorney Rick Carter,
Real Estate House Party.
paralegal Kathy Holtshouser,
Real Estate House Party. Come in, have fun.
and comedian Tony V. Now, here's real estate attorney Rick Carter.
Welcome and thanks for joining us here on the Real Estate House Party.
You hit it again perfectly.
Nailed it.
Nailed it.
I think I usually get the introduction. It's the ending we still got to work on
Yeah.
a little bit there.
But we do have to clarify something right off the bat that is not Tony V.
Oh, it's not?
No.
Okay.
No.
All right. She seemed to jump right in the...
Can't fill those shoes.
Right into the role
No.
of it.
People
Have
were just like, wow,
have you
Attorney
seen
V
any of
got
these
really good
podcasts
looking.
yet?
No.
Oh, good. That's why you showed up.
No expectations.
All right.
It's okay.
Now,
I'll
we
keep
did
it
a
low.
lot of prep work for this show, so I think we're really going to pull this off pretty good there. So, and I thank you, all four of us, and Chrissy, for putting in the work this week, and a lot of... All right.
I actually did work this morning.
I feel like John did a lot of prep, but that's probably...
John did a lot of prep.
Yeah. That's
Well,
pretty
he
on
is
John.
who's who of Boston Magazine 2023, right?
Yes.
John, can you show our audience? Can you
congratulations.
show our audience your graphs?
No,
I'm kidding.
no,
Kidding.
no. No, John. So, how are you distinguished in that?
Should we introduce our guests first? Or?
Yeah.
Good
of course.
idea.
Okay.
John, you wanna go ahead? Or
No,
you want me
I'll
to-
let you do the honors. You're the host.
And I have her card right here from Atwood and Cherny, right? Mary Beth
Atwood and
Sweeney.
Cherny, yeah.
She is the first female partner at Atwood and Cherny, right?
Yes,
and
I
she
am.
does
For
divorce.
20 years, right?
25.
Oh, 25. I am
Just
sorry to rip
remarkably
you.
well preserved, but that's okay.
And you're our first attorney we've ever had on here because I don't.
We don't like
You don't
attorneys.
consider...
No,
Oh, no,
consider
I'm
yourself
kidding.
an
Wow.
attorney.
I'm kidding.
No, we just don't.
It's a joke.
We don't consider her a threat because I'll tell our
You're right.
audience.
We don't like other real estate attorneys.
If anyone calls me to help them with their divorce, just tell your kids you're going away with their spouse because that's how much divorce work I do. I don't.
Yeah, just run.
Just run.
Yeah.
Just
Run.
run.
Yeah.
Almost like you tell if anyone calls me for criminal work, just say,
Oh, I run from that too.
yeah, you just run.
Yeah,
Do
yeah.
you feel like an attorney, or do you feel like a therapist, or do you feel like a psychiatrist?
A little bit of both.
Oh, all.
Yeah, and more than that.
Right.
How many emails and you said you had a few days off. And,
Oh, I tried.
and
Tried hard.
And how many emails did you get in the last
4 days.
4 days?
Over 1,000.
Wow.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
And what are they typically just complaining?
Well, they email you all night long.
When
and
they
early in
can't
the morning,
sleep?
And then at 9 o'clock, they call you and ask you, have you seen that email? When did you send it?
Oh, yeah.
2 minutes ago.
Yeah.
No, because I was on the phone dialing your number.
Looking up your
But
number.
I'll look at it now. How long is it?
I think we're getting Mary Beth at an exhausted stage of her career here. This is going to be fun there. So.
You don't give out your cell phone.
Oh, they all have that too.
Oh, no.
Now if they can't reach me by email, then they go to text.
If
How
they
do you
can't- if they can't
give
reach
out
you-
your cell phone? How do you give out your cell phone number?
COVID.
Oh.
Yeah.
And Mass General has the same phone number.
They have my home phone number.
They have your home
Yes,
phone number.
yes. They think that I'm MGH.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you're
Not a
starting to
good time.
diagnose people. So you'd have to be a therapist there. So
You never know.
We have a lot of questions. Who wants to start? Do you want to introduce the Iceman, Kathy?
Yeah. Welcome, John Marroni. If
Thanks
you
for
guys
having
haven't
me.
seen him, he's thinking outside the box. Real
Thank you for
estate.
coming back after this long layoff. We haven't seen you.
He's a loan officer, and what he's trying to do is they kind of go around it instead of getting clients to come to him because they want a rate and term refi, which those are
Don't exist anymore.
they're gone. He's
Started his own niche.
he's partnering with divorce lawyers and.
Well, not partnering. I don't partner.
Oh,
with
I'm
them.
sorry.
Big difference.
So all of a sudden you're
resource.
worried about RESPA violations?
Well, no, partner's a different animal.
I know. I use that. I use partnering loosely. He's reached out to divorce lawyers and estate
Family lawyers, divorce
Yeah.
coaches, mediation, all the family law community.
And the reason is because they typically, in a divorce, one of them is keeping the house and one of them is moving out, or they're both selling the house.
Well,
and-
we explore those options if
So you have a lot of tips for for divorce attorneys on how they can better coach, and I guess we shouldn't say coach either.
What word can we use? What
Support.
word?
Support.
Thank you.
Educate.
Support your
Educate,
clients
be a
on
resource.
some of the things you can educate them
I thought
on.
you guys did this before.
I could ask Mary Beth, tell me some of your better clients that you've had. Tell me a good divorce couple coming in. Do they just say, all right, we're here, we're very agreeable and everything? And the reason I'm asking this is because I'm going to ask the flip side in a second here about your worst ones there. But do you ever have anyone come in and say, listen?
I do.
They
So
just
I
say,
practice mediation, arbitration, collaborative law, and straight-out litigation, and I do appellate work in Massachusetts and New Hampshire. But I'll give you an example of a very easy one. I gave a similar type podcast to a women's organization a couple of weeks ago, and by the next morning, 15 of them emailed me in the middle of the night to help them. But one couple, very matter of fact, they're like, we have a 25-year marriage, our kids are grown, we have very few assets except large retirement accounts. We already know what we want to do with financial support to one another. We're out of the country right now doing these college-type professor things. Can you just write us up an agreement, and will you meet with us? We have 3 issues that we need help with.
Really?
I was able to get an agreement done. I met with them on a Friday. The agreement was done by Monday morning.
Wow.
They brought it back.
That's unbelievable.
I mean, those are the divorces.
What were
that
the 3 issues they had? Sounds like
financial
they had,
issues.
They had everything under
Yep.
control.
Yep, couple financial tax nuanced issues. But they will be able to file a joint petition for divorce, and then instead of waiting 8 or 9 months to get a contested hearing, they'll be able to get a quick uncontested hearing.
Wow.
Wow.
Now, on these separate, I know you guys have a million questions.
I don't.
I'm going to try to get a few in
I'm
beforehand.
gonna listen to everything Mary Beth has to say.
What's considered
Yeah.
quick these days?
Not quick enough
Is
for
it
them.
2 months? Is it 3?
It depends. Depends on the county.
Depends on the court, right?
Depends on the county, depends on the judge. When you file a petition for divorce or a complaint for divorce, you get a docket number. Those last 2 digits assign you to a particular judge. But unfortunately, they still rotate these judges at times, so it depends on their schedule and how backed up they are.
So when the judge sees it, what's the timeline after that?
When the court processes an uncontested hearing request,
Yeah.
then it gets assigned to the judge on their docket, and then that type of divorce is all in 15 minutes.
Oh, wow.
15 minutes of fame, that's it.
Okay.
How come people never, in our world, we review the separation agreements after everything's done. They never seem to comply with those. They'll say, all right, how's...
Well, they have to comply,
No,
or
but
they're
I
in
always see-
contempt of court,
The
right, Mary Beth?
husband says, I'm going to refinance within 4 months, and if not, we're going to put it on the market. It's going to be sold by this, and this. They never kind of meet those time frames.
Yeah, it depends on the people.
Yeah,
And you're right, it is a complaint for contempt.
Right.
If there's clear and unequivocal terms of an agreement and someone disobeys it, then you
Well,
file
it seems
and
like
get
the
in
2
quick.
of them agree to, they almost do it outside the agreement. Say, all right, you couldn't get it done in 4 months. Let's just do it. You know, it seems like they start making their own rules to these separations.
Sometimes they do, and
Yeah.
they're allowed to do that. But if there's an issue between the 2 of them, then you need to go back to the operating instrument.
Because I'm always sending them to my title insurance company and say, are you okay with this? Because, you know, they didn't get it in the ballpark. They didn't get any of this done. You know,
It's kind of like when the husband has to refinance and pay the wife like $100,000 from the refinance, cash out refinance, and then it's like pulling teeth, right?
Right.
Well, I'm just going to give it to her when I refinance, but when we have a public, you say, what do you call it, operating agreement?
Operating agreement,
Yeah.
separation agreement.
Right, is the governing tool that we need to use. So we can't give him all of his money. We have to go and give the $100,000 to his wife, right?
If she's smart enough to have a lawyer, or she reaches out to the loan officer when they're doing the HUD to make sure that her distribution goes directly to her and doesn't flow to the husband, because that's when you run into little snafus,
Right.
kerfuffles.
But like from where a real estate attorney sits, I feel like since that's public record, and we pulled it and we know about it, I feel like we have to do it that way. If we didn't know anything about it, there's nothing we could do, right? But to give the husband the money, all the money, and trust that he's going to go give it to his ex-wife is kind of an ethical thing, as from where I sit.
So on my end, we call that an equity buyout, which is different than a cash-out refinance.
Okay.
'Cause we treat it like a rate and term. And let's say the husband's going to receive the $100,000, would put him on the CD as to receive it. So there's proof that the money was sent.
Okay.
And the wife cannot walk away with one penny. So we could, and why that's important is, let's say there's not much equity and it's a 95 loan to value. We can easily do a rate and term equity buyout. We wouldn't be able to do that if it was a cash out. I'd need more equity, and the rates
Right.
would be higher.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
What if the equity's over 100,000? He's only getting 100,000. The wife would be getting the balance, right?
Well, no, you do exactly 100,000. She can't walk away with a penny. Otherwise, she can, but would consider it a cash out refinance.
So she gets her 100,000.
Yeah, because there's sometimes, she'll say, all right, I'm going to do this, but while we're at it, I want some money too. Because in that case,
I see what you're saying.
and that would be okay. Like let's say a couple of years ago, they may have had a 5% rate, and they're going to refinance and get a nice low 3%, and the cash out refi would allow that for low rate. She's like, I'm getting a low rate anyways. What the heck? I'll take some extra money.
If it was a true cash out refinance,
Right.
But the rate will be higher.
A little bit higher.
Yeah.
But in the case of we were just talking about with the husband getting the money for it to be an equity buyout, the wife cannot walk away with one penny.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
you've seen the rates.
One penny more than. Oh, I see. Yeah.
It could be like zero going.
Right.
Yeah.
Have you seen the rates actually affect some of your separation agreements now? Where
Oh, absolutely.
yeah, because a lot of them
Absolutely.
have rates in 2 and 3%, and now
They do.
and now you guys got to go your separate ways, and each have to buy your own house. And you had a suggestion if they have a principal in a second home, right?
Yeah. Well, there's a couple things. Let's say the husband moving out and absolutely just wants all ties cut and get off the mortgage, have a refinance, and then she might say, well, the rate's so much higher. It's going to cost $600 a month. And the suggestion is, all right, well, how long are you going to own the house for? They might say, all right, maybe another 5 years. So you just figure out the difference, right? It might be another $40,000 or $50,000, and if the husband at all costs might say, you know what, I'll give you the $50,000 to make up for it, and we'll call it even.
Yeah.
Period. Whatever you do after, if the rates drop and you refinance, God bless. It's yours. So there are. Not everyone has that luxury of doing it, but that's
No.
at
Or
So the other thing is, let's say
they don't play nice mostly.
Yeah, that happens all the time.
Right.
But when you
Yeah.
have a conversation with them and you say, look, if you cut this deal now and you're not in the court system for another 12 months where you're going to spend $250,000 apiece,
Right.
Yeah.
let's do that math.
Yes.
Right.
What do you want to do?
Exactly.
And then they will ride that ride.
Right.
Yeah, because the other side would be if, let's say, the husband's not going to do any money, but he's concerned about trying to buy a house and not being able to qualify carrying both
Yeah,
mortgages.
yeah. Right.
They'll just say, all right, that's okay. Just put in the language that the wife's responsible for this mortgage, the account number, everything. In our world, we don't have to debt him day one.
Do you do that?
What part?
Actually, the part where you actually put in, because I don't see
This
that
debt,
much.
itemize the debt, the exact debt.
with the account number.
It's rare that you'd put the account number in an agreement because it is a public document.
Yeah.
But there are words you can use in an agreement so that, and John has actually given me some of those words to use in some of mine that are really helpful to accomplish that goal.
Right. So that's pretty good. So you can put that right in the agreement, and then you don't have to use that.
I work with people like John on the front end before I craft
Yeah.
an
Very
agreement.
smart.
So that if there's a particular refi that someone needs to do, whether they're just refinancing the existing mortgage to get someone's name off it, or if, as John just pointed out, it's a cash-out refi to do a distribution of marital property. Better to have those conversations on the front end, but I like to start by sitting down with my people and having a come-to-Jesus talk with them.
Yep.
Can you really even afford, if, let's just run the math, you need to, your house is worth $1 million, and you already have a mortgage of $600,000. So you're going to have to pay half of $400,000, so that's $200,000. So now you're going to carry an $800,000 mortgage. Let's look at current interest rates. Let's look at a 5-year ARM. Let's look at a regular 30-year fixed. And let's talk about what your payments are really going to go up to. And oftentimes when you do that analysis with them, they'll realize that they can't afford to keep the house.
Right.
And then brokers. I send them to real estate brokers.
So I had a scenario where the wife was going to keep the house, but she was not on title. So
Hard to keep the house.
Yeah.
so my
Good
underwriter.
luck to her.
No, my underwriter said, you know what? Before the agreement, because they had plenty of equity, the house was worth $1 million. Have the husband sell it to her. I go, what about the down payment? Gift of equity. So he just needed $600,000, $400,000 gift of equity. Yeah, it's a gift, but the federal lifetime exclusion is like $10 million or 11. Massachusetts is $1 million today, anyways.
Right.
So they ended up getting a loan amount of $600. That's where he got the money, and now she owns the property. Yes, it was before all that, and some trust going on there, but they were able to get that done. Otherwise, you'd have to wait at least 6 months for her to be on title before you can even do any type of equity buyout.
So you actually brought up a real good point, and we're going to give John some kudos right now. I think this real estate world, and maybe your world, is a little bit backwards. I think they all see us at different times, but they probably should see some of us a little earlier than others. And they should probably sit down with you, because you can kind of, put this agreement in place or the whole process in place after talk, not just in the divorce world, but we're seeing a lot now where.
But like if a husband and wife decide to get divorced, they go see Mary Beth.
Yep.
And they start the divorce.
Sounds like Mary Beth's smart enough to bring a lender in.
But so she's not that smart. Let's just say that.
Wow.
Just a pretty face.
Wow.
But
wow.
I think you're smart. But in my scenario,
Okay, in your scenario. So let's use another example of the Mary Beth then.
The wife hires Mary Beth, and they start the file with the court, and then it's almost too late to have John come in with that kind of scenario that you just gave us, right?
Right. So then it's just a matter of time.
6 months.
It would be 6 months to do an equity buyout, yes.
Right.
But then, let's say the language, nothing about the mortgage was on the divorce decree, and now the husband's concerned about getting indebted twice. So, worst case, you'd have to wait 12 months, showing the wife's making the mortgage payments out of her account. He can't be
For 12 months.
For 12 months.
Right. So that's the. I guess that's
so
the
if you
point.
saw him in the beginning, you might have been able to suggest. Let's.
But then I go to Mary Beth, right? And she says,
'Cause
well,
she's the
listen.
smart one.
Because she's the smart attorney.
Right.
Now I'm smart.
Now all of a sudden,
all right.
She says, you know what, before we even go any further, you might want to talk to John Marroni about your situation. He's a financial guru. He's a lender. He has a bunch of great ideas for couples getting divorced. He'll give me some ideas, and then I can have an educated conversation with you about moving forward.
I always have people get pre-qualified.
Yeah, so on the
pre-qualified,
and here's the thing I caution people, if someone comes to me to get pre-qualified, let's say it's the wife wants to get first thing I'll say is, does your husband know that you're thinking about getting divorced? She's like, that's a silly question. I said, well, if I pull a credit, they have all these credit triggers that all these mortgage companies are going to start calling, and if your husband's phone number is on file, he's going to be getting called from all these mortgage companies and wonder why.
Oh, yeah.
Right.
So it's going to kind of, so make sure.
That's awkward.
Thanks for doing my dirty work.
Yeah. I had a situation like that, not to tell all war stories, but the wife says, all right, we're probably going to get divorced. So I go, all right, you have to make sure, because they agreed to have the husband off the deed. So I said, all right, you just got to get it notarized. Well, we don't have a notary. I go, well, I'll go notarize it. I went over to the husband's house. He didn't know anything about it. That was the most awkward.
I'm
So
sure.
she used you to tell him?
Yeah, exactly. So I'm on the steps for. I go. It seemed like 4 hours, but it was only 30 seconds as he looks at it.
Because you blacked out, right?
Yeah.
Right.
Rick like blacked out right on the steps.
And then you don't want to throw the other person way under the bus.
So what's going on here? I don't know why I did this.
I know. I said I was told to come here because your name's coming. Yeah, it was very awkward there. So, what's your worst divorce you've ever had?
I had a international child abduction case with a guy who saw me before his wife fled, and I told him, if she leaves you, she's going to take these twins and she's going to the Congo. You're never going to see her again. Not a signatory to the Hague Convention. He hired someone else. She stole the children,
sure enough.
but she was so smart. She got a restraining order, which gave her sole legal custody, which she took that paper right away, went to the embassy, got passports for the kids. They were twins, 6 months old.
Wow.
Boom, she was out of there. Her family was very, very wealthy. They hid her in the Congo. in various
Wow.
palaces for about 2 years.
Wow.
It took me 2 years to get the kids back.
Wow.
2 years.
You got them back?
I did.
How'd you get them back?
United States State Department, and one wonderful thing called citizenship. She wanted to have that so she could bring her family here. You
Yeah.
have to go to these hearings in federal court, and they had given her many extensions, and then they gave her very last extension. So she could either fly into Boston or JFK. So I had U.S. Marshals waiting at
Wow.
both places. I had her arrested.
Wow.
And then she went on this long, circuitous trip all around the United States. I'm sure seeing wonderful things in the back of their van.
Yeah.
Wow.
And then we ended up back in Massachusetts courts and trying the custody case.
See, this
Wow.
is why
Yeah.
Mary Beth's the smart one.
Right.
When you said, yeah, that's crazy.
It was crazy.
I can't believe you got them back.
I'm stunned myself. I mean, most people.
Two years in the Congo and
Yeah, you think they'll never, they get gone forever.
But think about all he missed of their lives.
Yeah.
right.
You know, first
right.
steps,
Wow.
solid
yeah, yeah.
food.
Yeah.
Wow.
Oh wow, that's
So is he
unbelievable.
back? Is he with the kids now? Tell
They're
me she's
older
in
now.
jail.
No.
Oh.
No.
So what
We,
happened to her?
She ended up with some parenting time. He had some parenting time. They had to
Wow.
parent the children together. The court system kept the passports to
Wow.
prevent her from leaving again. Smart
Yeah.
idea.
Wow.
I've tried a lot of crazy ones.
All right,
Wow.
give us another one.
Well,
You just trumped everything with that one. That's unbelievable.
I
So-
got a question for you that comes up. It has to do with marital assets. Like you might have, the wife goes into the marriage and she owns the property, and then they're married. They're not living in that property. Maybe she happens to have a second home, but he's making all the payments on the mortgage and putting money into it. Then they get divorced, and then he's trying to claim, I entitled to part of that. How does that work?
So my favorite phrase, you
yeah.
can't buy a prenup after the fact.
Oh,
Okay? So now we look into the
Is
analysis.
that the word where prenup comes from beforehand? Yeah.
Before you do something stupid. But it depends. Good lawyer's answer, right? So if it's
Yeah.
a short-term marriage, like 0 to 3 years, then you can try to make a pitch to exclude that property in an overall division of assets.
Yeah.
But once you're into like 5 to 15 years and you've maybe rented that property
Yeah.
and that rental income has shown up on your tax returns
Yeah, yeah.
and you've had this economic benefit from it, then
Yeah.
the magic phrase, woven and commingled into the fabric of the marriage.
Oof.
Judges really like that
Well,
one.
that's
I
a
like
good
that.
one. Chrissy, write that down.
We gotta
That's
record it.
gonna
This
be-
is recorded.
Woven
Yeah, record that.
commingled into the fabric of the marriage.
Wow.
Once that
Wow.
happens, it's coming in.
Wow. All right, let me ask you one.
Wow.
I got one too. We're going to stop peppering your
Woven
questions.
in.
Here's one. So, couple are divorcing. Wife's mother is about to pass away. What does the husband get for that inheritance?
It depends.
Okay, no, that's all right.
So
I knew it wasn't a straight
Did they? Is this a 20-year marriage where a
20-year
couple,
marriage.
They did not save for their own retirement because they
Correct.
knew that grandmother was going to leave
Yes.
this, $2 or $3 million fortune.
Yep.
So that there was an expectancy.
Yep.
Okay.
So different judges look at expectancies with certain formulas, but
Yep.
the longer the marriage and the better pitch you can make if you're representing the economically disadvantaged spouse that you would have done things differently all during these 20 years,
Yep.
but you knew this was going to happen.
Yep.
You make a pitch as
Yep.
much as possible to come in.
Okay.
Might not come in at 50%, but it'll come in
What
at
do you usually
something.
see? Not that
It depends.
It's hard for you. I know.
So if she's on death's doorstep
Right.
and somebody has filed for divorce, maybe you can get away with like 20% of it coming
Okay.
in.
How about if they're officially divorced?
If they're already divorced,
Yeah.
in an agreement, then you're waiving your right to any
So
inherited
you can't put in the
gifted assets
agreement.
Right.
divorce.
You can't put in
Going-
the agreement
going
that down the
going
road,
forward,
if
sure,
mom
yeah.
passes away.
If people agree to that.
I guess you could do that, right?
yeah,
right,
if people
right.
agree to that, and
Right.
sometimes
But
that
if the mother
happens.
passes away after your divorce is final, they don't get anything.
That's right.
Unless it was
Yeah.
Right.
addressed in the.
in the agreement.
Yeah,
Right,
Right.
right. That makes sense, right? So interesting. Because
So what about the grandchildren? They would probably get something, right?
That has nothing to do with the divorce case.
Yeah.
Okay.
Divorce court
Okay.
judges can't give money to kids. We can set up educational accounts for college,
Okay.
but they can't transfer assets to children in a divorce, only the
Okay.
parties.
Because I've heard of some spouses getting divorced because they know the mother is passing away in probably a year or two, and getting X amount of dollars for that.
It happens a lot.
Yeah.
Exit strategy.
Yeah. Yeah.
Wow.
I guess so.
So you
There's a
must
lot
see-
of planning that goes on.
Yeah.
I've met many people who will come in and tell me, I'm about to inherit this.
Yeah.
What do I do?
Yeah.
Because I think I want to get divorced.
Yeah.
Maybe you want to speed that process up.
Yep. 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 Exactly. So.
Can you imagine planning
Well-
on getting divorced
well,
so that you can avoid
As you said,
sharing
I
your
mean, I hear it in my
Happens all the
world.
time.
inheritance?
Yeah.
Like
All the time. Yeah.
that's crazy to me.
Is there a specific formula? Say, no kids. Just X amount of dollars of income each year. Not a lot of retirement money. Again, the younger couple, they're getting divorced. Is there a certain formula that you go by?
Depends on the number of years of the marriage.
Okay.
So 0 to 3 years, courts generally would, in those circumstances, want to restore you to where you were before you came in.
Okay.
And maybe divide up any appreciation in assets that happens
Okay.
during a
Yeah.
marriage. But the longer the marriage goes on, even without children, we are definitely moving towards a 50-50 state.
Yeah. Yeah.
Equitable distribution state.
Yeah.
Here and in New Hampshire.
Yeah. Yeah. Interesting. All right. All right, Johnny. We've been dominating. Go ahead. You can jump in there with a question. I see the wheels
He's
turning.
contemplating.
He's contemplating.
No, then he's going to go, but it's my turn.
Or he's going to show us a chart.
He gets mad
It's
when
my
we
turn.
chart.
No charts. We
It's my
all knew that was a
turn.
bad idea when we brought it out, but it was way too late.
Well, I got a question with the quadros, the qualified domestic relation orders.
Yep.
What's the best strategy if someone wants to buy a house using that money without having to pay any taxes?
So you might want to explain that a little bit.
So let's say someone has a retirement account, and let's say the wife is going to receive half of it, and the money comes out of the retirement into a holding account. Is there a way to use that money to purchase a house of the tax laws without paying taxes?
The short answer to that is no. But
Okay.
what you can do is you can generally take a loan against some portion of your share of a retirement asset. You're paying
Okay.
yourself back, so I guess you're really looking at that tax consequence.
Oh.
But as soon as you withdraw that money, you're
Right.
going to pay, if you're under, 55, you're going to pay early withdrawal penalty,
Okay,
federal
so it's a-
taxes, state taxes.
It's
That's
the
not
same.
really,
Oh,
that's
that's
not
right.
really
Good
worth
point.
it.
Yeah. So it depends
Yeah.
on how old you are. If you,
Because when you divide those retirement assets, they're divided in kind, so there isn't a tax consequence. But once your half comes to your side of the ledger, if you draw that down before you're able to, then you're going to have a problem.
So if you're 59 and a half, then there's no penalty, but you'll still have to claim it as income.
Yes.
Okay.
So
Got
your
it.
best bet is to find a different way to get the funds to buy a house.
Well, I like her idea with the, take out a loan and then
Right.
pay yourself back. That they'll,
right.
that's the best way.
Right.
If you're able to,
Or
qualify.
some of the larger financial institutions will allow you to use it as sort of mortgage-backed security if you have other investments
Okay,
that
yep.
you house with someone. But those lenders or entities tend to have much higher interest rates.
All right. So another question. I had this person close, and he said he didn't care. He wasn't divorced. She ended up got a boyfriend. He has a girlfriend, and he said, "I'm buying a house." I go, "You don't have an agreement or anything."
Sorry, sounds bad.
Yeah, I go, "You don't have an agreement?" He's like, "No." He goes, "Don't worry." He goes, "We got it all worked out." And they closed on the house not too long ago. He's not even worried about it. And she closed on a house with her boyfriend. How's that thing going to play out?
Now there's more marital assets. His house and her house.
Yeah.
Right.
Can
They
I
all come into the pot.
can I jump in for a second? When anyone ever says, "Don't worry, it's all going to work out."
Yeah.
How often do you see it?
Oh,
Don't
run.
worry, not to worry.
Run.
Right.
We got
Not
it all
true
figured
words
out.
there.
We'll
Right.
figure it
Not
out.
right.
So both
No.
of those two houses, unbeknownst to their significant others, is going back into that divorce
When they-
as a marital asset.
Yep.
I'd be kind of mad if I was the new GF or BF.
Yeah.
Right.
Right?
So if the new GF or BF contributed economically to like the down payment of those properties,
Makes it even
then
messier.
They should have some kind of cohabitation agreement that I'm going to get my money back in the event you get divorced.
Do you do those two?
Yes.
You must, right?
In the event that this house becomes
A
part of
marital
our
asset, and someone says
divorce.
100% of the equity should come in, and you
Like,
say, no, I put a bunch
what
of
if
money
GF
down
was
too."
paying the mortgage with the husband? Do you know what I mean?
It's really akin to rent, isn't it?
Yep.
Because you got to live somewhere.
Right.
Whether you're living with your new significant other and he's married to someone else, it's rent.
Yeah, that gets a little
Dicey.
dicey.
Yeah, I mean,
Can I ask
Yeah.
you that? I know you
We
want
have to
jump
go
in.
No, no,
soon.
no. Go ahead.
I got to ask this one because again, in our world, it's a lot different than us. When you file for divorce, in theory, it's supposed to be a stay on everything, right?
Kind of.
Kinda. That's exactly what I
Yeah.
thought. It's kinda.
It's
'Cause it-
kind of.
Right.
It's
So
to prevent you from doing extraordinary things.
Like buying a new car.
house in the Cayman Islands for your new girlfriend. Can't do that.
Right.
But you can operate your business. You can pay your normal and necessary bills if you're a stockbroker and you traditionally invest your own stocks, and you can do that. So there's definitely wiggle room. It has to be something really substantial.
But how about this, where the house is just in wife's name, collectively they filed for a divorce. She can't sell that house. There's
no,
a stay on that.
that would be a big thing.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's a hard no.
I just wanna make
No.
sure.
And she can't strip it of equity either.
Right. Okay.
That would be
Right.
another
Exactly.
hard no.
Right.
Right.
What you mean by you? They can't mortgage
Take
it
out
to
a
the
loan
hilt.
without telling anyone.
Right.
Right.
Exactly. So.
So I got a question. With all these attorneys, someone can answer this. If your husband and wife, they're both own the house, title's tenant by entirety.
Yeah.
Then they get divorced. What does that?
Tenant in
It
common.
goes right
It
back
automatically?
to...
Yeah.
The
Okay.
minute the divorce is final, it's tenants in common.
Which is actually a really good point.
It is a good one.
Because if now someone has passed away and they think it's automatically going to the spouse,
Absolutely
it's
not.
It's
It's going to
It's
their
not.
immediate heirs, which is
Yep.
typically the children.
Which
So
a
what
lot of
should they
people
do?
don't know about that.
So what should they do?
Well, it depends on the
Nothing.
circumstances, but they gotta. It depends on what they want to do. Do they still want to still own it, and do they want the other spouse to get it if one of them passes away? You know, it depends.
I'm guessing not if they're getting divorced.
Well, that's what I mean. What do they want to do? And I guess you didn't have any, but I guess there's other things you can do. You can always put it in
You can put
as
language
joint
in an agreement.
tenants.
Right.
Right.
Yeah,
Or you
as
do an
to the
agreement.
disposition of
Right.
the property,
right.
yeah.
But it's a good point. People should know all of a sudden you're a tenant in common, where if one of them passes away,
Automatic.
it's going to go to the
Mm-hmm.
heirs as opposed to.
Because I think most people don't realize
They don't
about
realize.
at all. They just they're
Right,
signing the
right,
mortgage and
right.
this.
They have no idea. The tenancy is a big deal, right?
Right, right.
If it's not husband and wife, right?
Yeah.
We spend a lot of time on that.
Because
with,
there are a lot of
like
title problems.
two friends buying a house.
Right,
And
yeah.
what are your intentions? And then if they tell us their intentions, then we can figure it out.
But we've
from
had a lot
there.
of title problems with that. That's why we always say do a title search first, because husband and wife, one of them, they file for divorce, but then one passes away. Or actually, at that point, they've gotten the divorce, but they haven't done anything else. They haven't seen Mary Beth at this point. One of them passes away. They think, well, the husband gets everything, but that's
Not really.
not the case. They should have
Not
saw
the
Mary
case.
Beth a lot earlier than that. Wow, there's a lot done.
Yeah, I know that it's time for us to go. Any last minute tips?
You're very
Be
knowledgeable.
Call
careful.
a divorce attorney.
Be careful and plan.
Right.
Planning
So
is
they
your
should see
friend.
you and probably Johnny very early in the process.
Figure out what you want to do, if you can afford to buy a house, if you can afford to buy the other side out, and then get creative with your financing. And if you don't have credit, if you're a homemaker, you've never worked a day in your life, you're completely dependent on your spouse, you need to start building credit.
Right, and stocking away money.
Under the pillow.
Under
We
the pillow.
didn't say that,
Never,
but
never.
no. Well, this has been awesome.
I know. Yeah, I want you to come back because you're a wealth of knowledge.
Oh, well, thank you. It was-
You didn't think she was
I
the
enjoyed
smart
being
one.
a guest.
No, it was just
I
an
know, I
example.
know.
But you know,
Oh,
I don't know. I'm taking over someone's seat here.
Oh, you can come.
No, we're
No,
jumping, John.
Tony's pretty good on legal advice,
So Rick,
too.
you got to ask her how to get a hold of her.
How do they get a hold of you?
You can call my office at 617-262-6400. Ask to speak to Anna, and she'll get you on my calendar.
And you have two offices.
Yep, I have an office in downtown Andover. We have our office in downtown Boston at 177 Huntington, and we also have an office in Northborough.
Nice.
Perfect.
You're,
All
yeah,
right.
it was a pleasure. It was nice
John
to
Marroni,
meet you.
how do they get a hold of you?
They can just Google me.
There are links to both John
Links. All right.
And,
and Mary Beth's
don't try to
businesses
call me.
Mary
and the
Beth,
links
you've been a
below.
delight. Thank you very much. You're
Thank
perfect for this. And Johnny, for the first time being on a podcast, you are awesome.
And why don't you give up your number? Because I'm not giving
No,
up
you
my
give it up.
number.
You give it up.
Oh,
Yeah,
so
so-
Rick's number is 781-944-9222.
Thanks for joining us here on the Real Estate House Party. We'll see you next week when Tony V comes back and
Yay.
visits. Have a great week.
The views and opinions expressed by the hosts, guests, or callers of this program do not necessarily reflect the opinions of the Studio 21, Podcast Café, the United Podcast Network, its partners, or affiliates.